Some hubcaps give a car a more classy look. These wheel covers are shiny, detailed, expensive, and usually easy to steal. In just a few seconds, $300 worth of hubcaps can be on their way to a wheel cover shop to be sold. Since the wheel covers are such an easy target for thieves, more are being stolen each month in Oklahoma City. The hubcaps don't even have to be fancy for a thief to consider taking them. Police say if your hubcaps are ever ripped off, it's very important to report the incident right away.
Many times people don't report the theft of the hubcap until after they've notified their insurance company and are told that they have to have a police report in order to have their insurance company take care of their claim. If we had an immediate police report, as immediate as possible, made, it's would be much more likely that we'd be able to do something about it, catch someone, and in some way follow through with police procedures.
One hubcap shop says there are ways to avoid buying stolen wheel covers from thieves. Shop operators can check to see if the hubcap is marked with a personal identification number. It can't stop someone from stealing your merchandise, but it could make finding a stolen wheel cover a lot easier. And common sense tells a shop operator the person's not to buy from.
We keep a card file of the people that buy from us, and then if you came in very often, or well, like if you came in more than once and had, say, a set of wire wheel covers, okay, I would check and see if I had bought from you, and if I had bought from you, in the last, say, 6 months or so, I wouldn't buy from you again.
Probably the best way to prevent hubcaps from being stolen is to buy a lock. With the lock, the wheel cover is screwed to the wheel, and the owner gets a special screwdriver to remove the screws. Sure, anyone could get the same tool, but it would still be a hassle to take the hubcap off, and not even thieves like hassles. Ed Stewart, Action 4.
According to top-level union officials, the extension of the layoff of more than 2,500 UAW workers at the plant has some of the members concerned.
What they're concerned about is things that are going to happen in the future. What is going to be the schedule for that? Are we coming back on September the 20th like the schedule says? Is there any additional layoffs for the period? One of the things that I think is a bright spot is the fact that the other plants that are building the same cars we are getting hit a lot harder this layoff than we have.
However, Campbell feels confident that the workers will be brought back on time. One of the reasons is necessity. The Oklahoma City plant is the only one in the nation making the Buick A model, a car that has been in high demand. But the real key to bringing people out to the showroom is a more affordable interest rate. According to Campbell, somewhere around the 13% level. But until then, the outlook for a more successful car industry and more jobs is bleak. So the bottom line is really very simple. If interest rates don't come down, these cars won't sell. And if these cars don't sell, the folks at the GM plant in Oklahoma City will be out of work. And while the forecast is bleak, officials at the plant maintain things are bad, but they could be much worse. Kevin Ogle, Action 4.
The lawsuit concerns an article published July 20th in the Daily Oklahoman. The story is about the death of 32-year-old Margaret Tillery, an Oklahoma City woman. The headline reads, "She lost 20 pounds and her life on the Cambridge diet." Lawyers for the California manufacturer say the article was a false, misleading, and maliciously libelous publication by the defendant. According to their clients, no one can die from the Cambridge diet, and it's their opinion that the victim purchased only 1 can of the mix and used only half of that. They add the woman was reportedly also taking diet pills. When the article came out, Cambridge Plan International officials asked that the Daily Oklahoman run a retraction. The newspaper refused, but they did run a story quoting Cambridge officials.
Attorneys for the plaintiffs say that story was far less than a retraction. So a lawsuit has been filed claiming libel and slander for the sum of $65 million. The Tulsa attorneys say it'll be 9 months to a year before the case reaches court. Sherry Sellers, Action 4.
political climate here in Ardmore is almost as hot as the weather. Got a state senate seat up for grabs and 5 people trying to fill it. Well, the expected heavy voter turnout tomorrow has also turned out a statewide political candidate. He's trying to cash in on that voter interest. Mike Turpen wants to be the state's next Attorney General. He figures the best way to accomplish that goal is to shake hands with every person in Oklahoma. The youthful Muskogee District Attorney won't be able to press all the state's flesh by tomorrow's primary, but he's trying.
Gentlemen, I can introduce myself, Mike Turpen, like a turpentine.
Turpen's fight for Oklahoma's top legal office has been an uphill battle, but after pounding pavement from Alva to Idabel, he thinks momentum, Big Mo, has shifted in his favor.
And it's amazing we've kept our morale up the way we have, because everybody was saying we didn't have a chance for so long, and only in the last few weeks have people agreed now that we have a chance. And we have a chance because I think most Oklahomans would rather know their Attorney General than to know of one. And for the simple reason we've gone to the streets and worn out our shoe leather and gone to every major community in the whole state of Oklahoma, we've kind of caught fire now. And I think all the Turpen's troopers, as you said, we all realize now it could be turpentine tomorrow.
Turpen and his troopers hope their strategy of taking their campaign to the streets will convince Oklahomans that it is indeed turpentine. Mike Turpen now needs to make sure his euphoria doesn't allow him to be mowed down by the powerful Cartwright political machine. Scott Wallace, Action 4 in Ardmore.
Turpentine.
Vote Turpen.
Turpentine. Need your help. Tomorrow.
Paralyzed veterans from across the country met at the Sheraton Century Hotel to hear the words of a controversial administrator. Robert Nimmo was just confirmed last month by the U.S. Senate to head the Veterans Administration. Nimmo soon came under fire for spending money to redecorate his office. There was concern he would not be responsive to the veterans' needs. But Nimmo is hoping to leave all that behind him now. He says he is concerned about veterans and feels the whole country is awakening to a new sense of awareness about Vietnam veterans in particular.
I think the attitude of the country is changing. You know, the nation really, I think, had a severe case of schizophrenia during the Vietnam War. Terrible feelings of ambivalence about it, and that was reflected in the attitude of the citizens of the country. I think the country, the people of the country have kind of made peace with themselves about the Vietnam War.
But for the Veterans Administration to do all it wants to do for its 30 million veterans, it will take a lot of money. But the head of the Veterans Administration says, considering the way the rest of the economy is going, the VA is doing rather well. Bella Shaw, Action 4 at the Sheraton Century Hotel, downtown.
The young people today have been overlooked a little bit because we went through a period of time before inflation carried us away that big was beautiful, and the concept was that young people wanted to move into the same type house that their folks had whenever they moved out, and, you know, forgetting that it took their folks a period of time to build up to this.
Usually when there is hospital overcrowding, it occurs because there are not enough nurses and doctors to staff the entire hospital. But that's not the case at Presbyterian, where 17 to 20 people a day have been asked by hospital officials to postpone checking in. Admissions are simply outnumbering the people leaving Presbyterian. This is the time of year when patients come in for elective surgery, put off until summer vacations are over. But officials say that's not to blame for the overcrowding, and there are no immediate plans to add beds.
We do not anticipate at this point of opening or going in for approval of additional beds. My guess is, though, that the next year, year and a half, we're going to have to take a hard look at that. But we don't have any plans at this point. We're seeing lots of endocrinology and all kinds of subspecialty care being referred to physicians on our staff who are admitting the patients at Presbyterian Hospital.
Hi, Tony. How are you today?
How are you doing, young man? You doing okay? Even though Presbyterian has a bed shortage, there are nearly 1,000 empty beds in Oklahoma City hospitals every day. So it's unusual for patients and doctors to have to deal with a waiting list. Ed Stewart, Action 4 at Presbyterian Hospital.
Auntie Lee Eddings was only 16 years old when he shot and killed Oklahoma State Trooper Larry Crabtree in 1977. Eddings shot down the trooper on the Turner Turnpike after being pulled over for reckless driving. During his first trial a year later, Eddings never denied the killing and was sentenced to death. His resentencing was ordered by the federal Supreme Court last January on the grounds that his turbulent childhood had not been taken into consideration when he was sentenced. The court wanted Judge Charles Woodson to reconsider. Woodson did. For the past 2 days, he heard testimony from the prosecution that Eddings should suffer the same fate as his victim. And there was testimony from the defense that the death sentence was too severe for an act committed by a young teen who had been subjected to a violent childhood. But Woodson said he was convinced that Eddings would commit other crimes if he were released. Woodson upheld his own death sentence for the man, a decision Crabtree's former colleagues were pleased with.
We hope is that it is a deterrent for youthful offenders as well as all capital criminals as far as the murder of a police officer in his duties.
Is there any motive for revenge in this?
No, sir. It's simply justice.
Eddings is scheduled to die by lethal drug injection November 4th, but his appeals are expected to prolong that execution date. Debbie Mash, Action 4.
What I really want to do is just give you all the opportunity of asking me any questions about the campaign. I just want to give the opportunity of well, I don't think that that the joining of forces by the two candidates is any greater threat than before they joined forces. That was no surprise, no big political surprise when they walked in arm in arm. Had Neil McCaleb been the candidate, Tom Jackson would have been there with his arm locked around him saying, together, we're going to do this. So politically, that was no bonanza. I am tempted to say that 34% of the concerned Republicans repudiated the record of the auditor and inspector, but I won't say that.
And he started hitting his brakes, and I slid between him and the guardrail. And then I looked in the rearview mirror, and his truck was coming, and he was jackknifed already when I seen him. And he missed me by about a foot, and he hit the back of that Datsun and just flipped over and hit that sign.
The crash of Penn Square Bank gave few people much to sing about, but it inspired a new song, and disc jockeys in the city and around the country are finding the latest tune a popular one.
KOMA, Crystal Gale, and I'll Get Over You. It's 3:47, Marlon J. with you. Good afternoon. You've heard of the old saying, sign of the times? Well, here is a song of the times. This is Billy Ray, and Who Said the South Wouldn't Rise Again on KOMA.
Who said the South would rise again?
Now, me and my banker, we had a thing going. He'd light the fire and I'd get it to roaring. I'm talking about oil, that is. You know, liquid leverage. Now, we drilled in almost every state. We had money from 19 banks. We had visions of wells just a gushing. The whiskey was a-flowing and the girls was a-hustling. Mercy, who said the South wouldn't rise again? Now, it all started back a few years ago, and me and old Red was talking to Joe. We said, Joe, we got this idea about this bank down here. Well, they say it's growing by leaps and bounds, making millions, financially sound, and the word is the guys that's running it's good old boys. Well, then something went wrong, and somebody said, you better get to the bank. Here comes the feds.
The programming department at KOMA expects this novelty record to be off the charts and the airwaves in just a few weeks. They expect for the popularity of the record to crash, much like its subject. Debbie Mash, Action 4, in more.
With summer approaching its end, the water situation across Oklahoma looks encouraging. Only a few areas of the state are experiencing rationing, and the problems in those areas are not the water supply, but the ability to treat and transport. This has been a mild summer so far, and most areas of the state have received rains off and on. Officials with the Water Resources Board hope things will hold on, and Oklahoma can slip into fall without any summer drought.
I would say that over the next 3 or 4 weeks, we could be looking at a continuation of the summer weather. But generally, around the end of September, first part of October, we'll should have a break in the temperatures and get a little bit more rainfall. So I think that if we can get by the next 3 weeks to 4 weeks, we'll be in good shape.
If any areas of the state begin to experience more severe problems, they will likely be the areas with inadequate water treatment facilities. And that will be a problem only if the summer that seemed to have a low start makes a late transition into fall. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4.
We are now tracing the vehicle. We believe we can identify who it is through the vehicle, which has led us to a business. The car apparently is a business vehicle.
It's just extremely humid, extremely hot inside the classrooms, very little breeze, if any at all. And when you're dealing with that many people and you're trying to learn, it's hard. It's one thing to be outside playing. It's another thing to be inside trying to learn. And if the climate is not conducive to learning, there will be no education, regardless of whether you're in a classroom or not.
On June 1st, the target was here in Oklahoma City at the Wilshire Bank. He robbed the bank of more than $52,000 and then fled. Outside, he was spotted by 2 War Acres police officers who followed him. 2 blocks north of the bank, the suspect and the police had a brief gun battle. One of the officers was injured, but only slightly. Brooks got away. Air and ground searches were made for the suspect, but they were unsuccessful. Success came 2 weeks later when a policeman in Arizona spotted his car. He was transported back to Oklahoma City, where he was convicted. After 3 weeks behind bars and 2 attempts to break out, he appeared in federal court for sentencing. The sentencing went by quickly. Brooks's court-appointed attorney made only one final plea. He asked that the judge keep in mind his defendant's present record and the probability of other charges pending. With that in mind, he said that Norman Carl Brooks will be many years older when he's freed. So a long sentence imposed here in Oklahoma City could ruin any initiative or hope the man might have for rehabilitation. Judge Thompson's response? A maximum sentence of 25 years, as well as a recommendation that Brooks be confined in the most maximum security facility available. After sentencing, the convicted armed robber and prison escapee was escorted by federal marshals to a van waiting in back. Norman Carl Brooks, shackled in chains, was immediately driven out of the state to Dallas, Texas, where he'll await trial for another robbery. Sherry Sellers, Action 4 at the federal court building.
Church missionary Tom Ewers testified that he had visited Michael Harmon several times in the Cleveland County Jail. Ewers described Harmon as a Christian man of honesty and integrity. In his closing argument, prosecutor Rick Sitzman said that Michael Harmon should be put to death because Tammy Carter's death was so heinous.
When they killed Tammy Carter, they didn't give her any mercy. They did it in the most cruel and unusual manner you can imagine. And I would ask you to show the same mercy for the ones that did it.
Defense attorney Fred Schaefer appealed to the jury to show mercy on his client.
Killing Mike Harmon won't bring Tammy Carter back. If it would, your decision would be to keep him. But it can't. Killing Mike Harmon won't save anyone else.
We anticipate that we'll have to continue double selling throughout the next year, but the Board of Corrections has mandated that our position will be that we return to single selling, and that is what we've told Judge Bohannon. So in the future, we will have to present programs that will return us to single selling unless the board reverses its position and the federal court allows us to do differently. But for this coming year, we don't think we'll be able to get out of double selling, and in fact, we'll have more of it.
No,
Well, we think that it's very important. You know, first of all, as U.S. citizens, is that important? And then as blacks, traditionally we have been left out of the political decision making. This is one way to ensure proper representation.
Well, he bought me a little fiddle, and I just started looking off his fingers. And I'd watch his fingers, and I'd try to copy them, and I just started playing tunes off copying his fingers.
The day after Christmas, I was in there playing my fiddle, and she says, "Grandpa, could I try that?" I started when I was a kid, about 11 or 12, about her age.
It's fun to have lots of people watching you and just perform on the fiddle and the guitar and sing. I've been performing on the Oklahoma Opry, and I sit back with the band sometimes and play.
Well, I'm just tickled to death that I could help her as much as I have. And I hope she goes on to high heaven with this.
Thank you.
Is this staging the news?
We just want Americans to think about freedom, and in a nonpartisan way. You know, we're not saying good or bad about America. We're just saying, hey, this is America. We have something really good here. We have an opportunity to do something good and contribute, and we just want to remind people of that.
We'll inspire fellow Americans to experience the American freedom riders that are cycling through our beautiful state. The governor in the state of Oklahoma has proclaimed this 7th day of September 19, Oklahoma, as American Freedom Riders.